Oh, hey GameLeapers, what's up? It's Item Jez back at it. I hope you're raring to go for the 11.10 patch, which is around 5 days away. So it's creeping ever so closer, and in this video, we are going to be revealing the 10 best builds of that 11.10 patch, and the champions you have to abuse these on. Now, I'm sure we all know by now that Season 11 is legit League of Items. If your champion doesn't work well with the new items and spike as hard as Jizz in the morning, chances are you're going to be going through some equipment this season. So to avoid taking out your frustration on your mouse, your keyboard, your TSM mug, and whatever else you have nearby, stick around for the whole video. I also want you to hit the sub button and the notification bell if you haven't already, so you don't miss any more of our videos. And last up, make use of the GameLeap website, guys. We care about our thousands of subs and upload daily original challenger tier content that only they have access to. So join the club to not miss out and fall behind. Links as always in the description and comment section. Alright, so let's get into it. And starting off the countdown, guys, we have a build coming in at number 10 that has been actually very good for this whole season and is one of the reasons why Camille and Wukong in particular are so strong at the moment. And this is the Trinity Force as your mythic, the Ravenous Hydra, and Sterix Gauge combination. And I'm not sure if many of you top players have played against a Wukong or a Camille in lane, but even if you've played against them in-game in general, it's very hard to deal with. The new Trinity Force, which got changed in 11.7, is a big upgrade, because you're now getting more valuable stats like AD and haste and movement speed instead of a bunch of attack speed, Camille and Wukong in particular, and it's funny because even with the old Trinity Force, they were still really good. Now it's an even scarier mythic spike. The spell blade damage, which is really easy to proc on these champions with both their Qs, and of course the threefold strike passive, which lets you get towers easily. So if you don't really want a group of your inting teammates, you can actually just split push and end the game by yourself. And then by following this up, guys, this Trinity Force spike with a Ravenous Hydra, which gives you a good chunk of AD, a bit of haste, Omni-Vamp as well, which might not be the best stat because it's been nerfed generally this season, and because Grievous wounds are so accessible and effective, but still, it's a really nice item spike in there for the AD. It gives you a nice boost on the offensive end, and then you finish it off with a Sterix Gauge, which has actually been buffed this season because the stacks now work. So when you're split pushing in a 1v1 or even team fighting, you're actually really hard to take down because of the sustain you get. And on both of these champions, Camilla and Wukong, who can dive into your backline and cause havoc, it's really hard to take them down before they do their damage to your backline, and this is why this build is coming in at number 10. Now we're going to stay in the top lane for this next build, guys, and there aren't many top lane builds, trust me. These are just 2 of maybe 3, I think, in this list. But yeah, coming in at number 9 is a build which Urgot has specifically been building, and this is why the god has had one of the highest win rates so far this season. And I'm sure you're all aware of this by now, so I'm not going to spend too long on this, and this is the Titanic Hydra Rush into a Stride Breaker combination. So why is this still good? Well, it's going to be good until Riot nerf or take away the on-hit in Urgot's W, his purge, and with these items it's so good, guys, because of Titanic's on-hit passive. So when you're purging towards your enemies or around your enemies, you are transferring some of that on-hit from Titanic's passive into your W. This is why you now max W in Urgot, and it's been really oppressive. Also, Stride Breaker in there as well gives you the stickiness you need, because as Urgot, one of your weaknesses is getting kited. Like if you're against a Vayne in the top lane or against any ADC in a team fight, if they're somewhat good at the game, they can actually kite you. But Stride Breaker, because of the slow and the movement speed boost yourself, it's very hard for them to escape your shotgunning little claws. So Urgot with Titanic and Stride Breaker once again makes this list, guys. Now I'm always looking for new builds, guys, to put on this list, but coming in at number 8 is another build that's been a staple this season, and this is because, well, ever since Everfrost got changed, lots of mages have been building it, and it's become so viable. And this means that champions that can build it, like Sylas and Ahri in particular, have really good win rates, especially Ahri, who has had one of the best win rates in the game since Everfrost got changed in 11.4. And it's also been a really good change for Sylas because of the Kindle gem which got inserted into it, so you can now get an 800 gold item part of it, which makes the actual mythic more accessible, and you get a nice bit of health and cooldown in there as well. But the real power, guys, for Everfrost and this build, so if you follow it up with a Zhonya's or a Cosmic Drive, comes in Everfrost is active. This allows champions like Sylas, Nari, who I just mentioned, even Lissandra and other champions, Ryze, TF even, this allows them to set up their CC and guarantee it. So by landing that Everfrost route, even if you don't land the route, you just slow the enemy champion, you can then follow this up if you're a Sylas with your chains, if you're an Ahri with your charm, if you're a TF with your stun card, and you've got rapid fire cannon in there as well. There's really little counterplay against it, and it's very hard to actually kill champions with Everfrost as well. So if you are someone who isn't really that well versed on a champion and you're struggling with just not dying in a game, build an Everfrost. If you're playing a mage, that is, you're going to die a lot less. So until Riot actually change Everfrost, guys, and it's active, this item combination, Everfrost and then Cosmic Drive or Zhonya's, it's going to be on this list for a while. Now, I just said, guys, that I'm always looking for new builds to introduce onto this countdown. Well, this build isn't really new. You know, these 2 champions, Jinx and Vayne in particular, have been building this for ages now. But the point is, guys, that this 3-item combination actually has the highest win rate once it's built in the game. And it's weird because ADC isn't the strongest role at the moment, but once you get to that late game, guys, you are still as strong as ever. It's just getting to that late game is the issue in solo queue. But still, Kraken Slayer, Phantom Dancer, and Infinity Edge is a deadly 3-item combination. As we all know, Kraken Slayer gives you the most most damage out of the AD mythics, so out of Gale Force, Shield Bow, and Kraken Slayer. If you want to finish a game early and nuke everyone, Kraken Slayer is the go-to. Then you have Phantom Dancer, which has been buffed this season, so more attack speed and might be a little bit more expensive, but for champions like Jinx and Vayne, who are so heavily attack speed based, this is great. And then Infinity Edge finishes that off with the crit passive. Now for Jinx guys in particular, this season has been very kind to you. Yes, it might have been a bit of a rough start, but since the buffs a few patches ago to your rockets and your base HP, you have been an absolute menace in the bot lane. This build gives you the biggest spike, like you become the ultimate hyper carry. And if we just think about this patch as well, with Lulu's running around everywhere and Karma's running around and more Shirelli supports in there, you are even more enhanced. But this build is the foundation you need to pop off. Now this next build guys, well it was in last patch's video, but there's an addition to the actual item rush here. So the item rush is still Nash's Tooth, which is still very good for champions like Katarina and Teemo, but there's a new item that is getting changed, and this is in the build. So Riftmaker. And in 11.10 guys, Riftmaker is getting changed so you stack it quicker. And yes, even though you're not going to be dealing as much damage when you're fully stacked, you get to the stacks quicker, that's the point. And for champions with a little bit of burst in there like Katarina and Teemo, you know, short trading and short bursts, it's actually really good. And even at the moment, without this change, some Katarinas and even some Teemos are building it. So that's the Riftmaker part, but still guys, even without Riftmaker, Nash's Tooth is a real powerhouse here. And the reason for this is because Katarina and Teemo, and there are other champions as well, like include a bit of Kayle, a bit of Xin Zhao in there. The reason these champions work so well with Nash's is because they're on hit, a bit like Urgot with Titanic Hydra. With Nash's Tooth, the on hit for Katarina, let's say, gets put into your passive, gets put into your E, and your ultimate. So when you're running around, when you're dashing around all over the place and dealing damage, your damage is actually pumping out some of that on hit that Nash's gives you. It also gives you 100 AP, which helps generally in terms of wave clearing and damage. So this build for another video, guys, makes it into the top 10 this time at number 6. Now starting off the top 5, guys, and by the way, if you want these videos to continue about the builds and the items and the combinations of champions, make sure to leave a like on the video to let us know. And starting off the top 5, yes, we have the Prowler's Claw and Serpent's Fang combination, which is still behind the success of Zed, Qiyana, Talon, Kha'Zix, pretty much any AD assassin in the game. And it might even be worth a shout on Varus now as well. You see, Prowler's Claw, guys, gives you the most lethality in the game, right, with 21. And the mythic passive gives you lethality for each legendary item you have. So when you get Serpent's Fang, when you get Edge of Night, whether you get Ghostblade, whether you get whatever it is, Silverwilder's Grudge later in a game, you get lethality each time you buy one of these major items. Which means in some games, you can even just start with a Prowler's Claw, buy Silverwilder's Grudge, and even though you're not getting lethality with the Grudge, you're still getting lethality really because of the passive from Prowlers. And this would be really good against a tankier team that's stacking armor, maybe steel caps and some bramble vests in there as well. The active is also really useful, so if you think of these champions like Zed, Qiyana, Talon, Kha'Zix, yes, some of them have a bit of AoE, but they're really about single target damage. I mean, just think of Kha'Zix for example and Zed's Death Mark. So when you Prowler's Claw onto that enemy champion, your damage to that single target is going to be enhanced, which is nuts, right? And because that's still in the game, I can't really leave this build out. With Serpent's Fang as well, this patch is actually going to be even more useful because of Shirelias and champions like Lulu and Karma running riot, literally. So there's going to be more shields and the Fang will be even more effective. So the Claw and Fang combo once again makes it into the top 5. Now, like the ADC build I just mentioned, the Kraken Slayer, the PD, the IE combo for Jinx and Vayne, I've got another Kraken Slayer combo here, guys, which is going to be nuts next patch. And for Master Yi and Senna, in particular, this is going to be crazy because Kraken Slayer is staying the same, okay, but Ginsu's Rageblade is the real attraction here because it's costing 200 less gold next patch, which is just 2600 overall, which is really, really cheap, and this will be the same as Phantom Dancer. So your 2-item combo with Kraken Slayer and Ginsu's is essentially the same as Kraken Slayer and Phantom Dancer. But for these two champions, guys, Master Yi and Senna, who revolve around on hit, this is huge. This means you're going to hit that item spike quicker, and yeah, just be more of a force and carry games. Now, it is true that the new Ginsu's might not be as powerful as the old one, but still, 2600 gold for the actual on hit you get is certainly something not to overlook, and next patch, it is going to be very, very popular indeed. Now, just before we get into the 3 most powerful builds of 11.9, guys, one last friendly reminder to check out the GameLeap website. So you're winning, you're losing, you're winning, you're losing, yeah, you're raging, you're flaming. Well, it's time to stop, and you can start seeing victory a heck of a lot more by clicking on one of those links down below, because we have the nut content, the highest level guides, courses, and analyses going around that are made for you and to help you peak. So get clicking. So the third best build of 11.10, guys, here we go. So you know how I mentioned before about, you know, supports like Lulu and Karma running riot and synergizing really well with Jinx and Vayne and all these AD carries, even Kog'Maw, you can throw Twitch in there as well, even the new Senna might be really good. Well, the reason these spellcasting enchantresses have all of a sudden taken over the bot lane is because of the new Shirelia's battle song. And this, guys, got changed in 11.8, and the big change is that it no longer gives you ability haste when you empower a friendly champion or give them a shield. It's actually giving them movement speed and yourself. So for these champions like Lulu, Janna, Karma, who are throwing out shields and empowering their champions with movement speed left, right, and center, this is super good. And in the late game, yes, these supports are good anyway, play, well now, it's like crazy. It's like you secure the win. If you have a lead, if your AD carry is playing well, hopefully they are, you solidify that win, you stamp it in place. In this meta as well, with so much damage flying around all over the place, movement speed is such an important stat, which is why actually I think the Katarina nerf losing 5 movement speed is actually more than what people realize. Yes, it's a bit of a meme still, but yes, 5 movement speed does matter in this meta. And one of the best things about this as well, guys, is that Shirelia's mythic passive now gives you ability haste, which is what these supports really rely on too. So you can throw out more shields, more movement speed buffs, all of that stuff. And you've also got to remember, guys, just think of Lulu in particular here, you can buff up to 3 of your teammates with Shirelia's in the late game. So you can W someone, you can E someone, and you can ult someone. So you'll have 3 teammates and yourself running around with some crazy movement speed, and it's very hard for the enemy team to actually get on you, and your kiting is insane. So this build has to be in the top 3. In fact, you could even put it at number 1, and I wouldn't argue with you. Now, beating the Shirelia's rush, and it's hard to beat, let me say this, but coming in at number 2 is a build from last week and maybe 2 weeks ago that I mentioned, and this is the Redemption build. So this build really relies around Redemption, guys, and Mikhail's, but you start the build off with a chem tank because of the ability haste. The active comes in really clutch as well, but yes, the ability haste so you can get off more shields, and that is what this build is about. It's like you're playing support Shen in the top lane. So of course you've got your passive, which gives you a shield, and your ultimate, which got buffed last patch. So in the late game, it's actually better. It's actually a bigger shield, and your AD carry, your mid laner isn't going to die when you shield them. And what is this enhanced by? Well, of course, Redemption and Mikhail's, because these buff your shield power. So when you ult onto an ally champion, guys, they are going to get a shield bigger than Gargoyles gives you, let me just say that. And it is impossible for the enemy Zed, the enemy Assassin, the enemy Bruiser to kill that AD carry when you just tap R. This has seen Shen have one of the highest win rates in high elos, especially for those of you building it, so abuse it before it's too late. Now, the number 1 build, guys, of 11-10, and I reckon you guys could maybe guess this. Well, you've definitely seen it in your games, there's no doubt about this. This is for champions like Fiddlesticks, like Rumble, like Vladimir, like Annie, these magic pen mages, and the build, of course, guys, is Sorceress Shoes into Rocket Belt, and it might even be worth, by the way, especially on Fiddlesticks and Rumble, to run Predator to make full use of this. Well, Sorceress Shoes are great, first of all, because of the movement speed, which is so important in this meta, and of course the magic pen. It's actually a really strong early game spike. This is like your serrated Dirk if you're an assassin. Sorceress Shoes gives you the magic pen you need to obliterate your opponents. Then you have Rocket Belt in there as well, which got changed recently, so you're getting magic pen off the rip, and its mythic passive, of course, gives you more magic pen as well, the more items you get. So that mythic spike, guys, is one of the best, if not the best in the game. And for champions like Fiddlesticks, Rumble, Vladimir, Annie, these 4 are so strong at the moment that they don't really need these items to be strong. It's like overkill, and this is why these 4 have some of the highest win rates in the game. If we also think about the Rocket Belt active, which propels you towards the enemy champions or in your target direction, this gives you more playmaking potential and engage potential and kill potential, and you can win more games because you're carrying that much harder. So the number 1 build, guys, of 11-10 goes to Sorceress Shoes and Rocket Belt. Let me know what you think of the countdown. Let me know what you think of the builds in here. If there's a build I missed, if you've tried any of these builds, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. As always, make sure to hit the sub button before leaving. This has been the Chiz, and until tomorrow's video, bye.